Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back into another edition of Key Time Sports. It's Key Time coming back to talk about the Tuesday night NBA slate and every game that was on the docket for last night's NBA scheduling was around playoff implications. So, the first game I'm going to dive into is the Atlanta Hawks and the Orlando Magic. Both of these teams right now are in the play in tournament bracket in the Eastern Conference. You have the Orlando Magic at seventh, and you have the Atlanta Hawks at eighth. So now, back to the game. Now, back to the game, we see where we already know that Trey Young, he is the driving force for this team. He had 28 points last night. I'm going to go down a list of the starters and the bench players for the Atlanta Hawks. Oneki Onkangwu, 30 points. Rachar, 8 points. Muhammad Gwai, 6 points. Trey Young, 28 points. Dyson Daniels, 15 points. Bench production for the Atlanta Hawks. Dominique Barlow, 0 points. Georgie's Nang, 9 points. Carius LeVert, 13 points. Terrence Mann, 0 points. Vic Kirkchecki, 3 points. And the last three players that were on the bench did not play because of coach's decision. Now, as far as for the Orlando Magic this year, they have been a team, that the last couple of years they made it to the playoffs, got a taste of the playoff experience. Now they're fighting tooth and nail, just trying to stay afloat. They are a game from being 500 going into the final. I'm going to say 40, no, excuse me, 96 hours of the NBA season. So the Orlando Magic last night, they had a good game. Obviously, they won. Pablo Banchero, 33 points. Franz Wagner, 22 points. Wendell Carter Jr., 17 points. Corey Joseph, 8 points. Kentavious Caldwell Pope, 15 points. The bench production for the Orlando Magic: Jonathan Isaac, 5 points. Cole Anthony, 1 point. Gary Harris, 3 points. Caleb Houston, 7 points. Anthony Black, 8 points. The last three players that's off the bench did not play because of coach's decision. Now, I've noticed when it comes to these teams like the Atlanta Hawks and the Orlando Magic, throughout the year they lose three, maybe four games here and there that they could have easily won, and their record could be better. But the playoffs there, let's see, the playoffs are going to start within the next week and a half. So when we look at the final playoff picture and the standings, we see where Orlando they are going to play the Miami Heat for a chance to play the first the first seeded Cleveland Cavaliers, and the Atlanta Hawks and the Chicago Bulls will be playing to play the Boston Celtics in the first round. Well, yeah, in the first round. But one thing, when it comes to the Atlanta Hawks, we know that they are a team that is just built for like a first round exit. That's all I see. First round exit, and like I say, whoever they play in the first round, they might get swept. They might get swept, and then they might get a game in the first round series, because when you look at the standings right now and you see Atlanta, they have a possibility of playing either Cleveland or Boston. Now, both teams are significantly better than Atlanta. Also with Orlando. Orlando is in the same boat as the Hawks. Both teams that they are going to play, if they ever have Cleveland Cavaliers and the Boston Celtics, they are both significantly better than the Orlando Magic. So this was this a game just for this is a game just for playoff positioning, play-in tournament positioning. But I don't see any of the teams going very far. So the next game I'm going to cover is the game that we all watched last night, the Boston Celtics and the New York Knicks. Historically, I'm going to give y'all a historic stat. Historically, the Boston Celtics own this series at 308 to 191. So this is last night was the 499th time that the Boston Celtics and the New York Knicks have squared off. And let me tell you, last night it was a doozy. It went into overtime. So, but I think the New York Knicks, they had a chance. No, not they had a chance at winning this game early, and I do mean early, even before it went into overtime. So what I'm going to do now is give y'all the statistics for both teams and tell you that both of these teams are not on the same trajectory no matter what the records are. First, we have the Celtics. They are the second spot in the East. Third spot in the East is the New York Knicks. Now, let me shift on over back to the game. So last night, you had basically the Celtics. They are just going through the motions, trying to get ready for the playoffs. They had Jason Tatum. He had 32 points last night. Kristaps Porzingis, he had 34. So this was his get back because the New York Knicks drafted him. 34. Drew Holiday had 16. Derek White had 14. Jaylen Brown had only 6 points, but he wasn't needed. He wasn't really needed last night because one thing I can say is, as far as the shooting concern, we know that the Boston Celtics are one of the best shooting teams in the NBA, and they are one of the most efficient teams in the NBA. But when you look at the New York Knicks, and see, this is the problem when I have what I have with the New York Knicks. I need every New York Knicks fan listening out there. Stephen A. Smith, I know you on First Take right now, but after you get off of First Take, you can listen to this. When it comes to the New York Knicks, every top-notch team that they have played this year, they have lost every game. Top-notch teams, when I say top-notch teams, I mean Boston, Cleveland, Denver, OKC, and all of those Lakers, Denver, Houston, all of those other teams. And let me tell you, the record with the New York Knicks is 0-10. So it really don't matter if they make it to the playoffs, because if you can't win versus the top-notch teams in the regular season, then what kind of confidence you have going into the playoffs? Now, I always have said, Tom Thibodeau, head coach of the New York Knicks, he does not value his bench players, and that is why the starters are going to get wore out when the playoffs officially start. So, New York Knicks players last night. New York Knicks players last night. Mikal Bridges had 14 points. OG Anunoby had 13 points. Karl Anthony Towns had 34 points. Jalen Brunson, had 27 points. Josh Hart had 10 points. The bench production for the New York Knicks: Mitchell Robinson, 4 points. Cameron Payne, 7 points. Miles McBride, 5 points. Landry Shamet, 3 points. Now, let me tell you, the New York Knicks, they should have won this game last night. They really should have. And this has been a trend when they play against teams like the Boston Celtics. They be having chances to win games like this, but they end up crapping the bed in the most critical moments in the game. Now, last night, under 2 minutes left, the Knicks had a lead, and also one thing, they had a lead in the fourth quarter, but the consistent shooting that the Boston Celtics had was too much, and the New York Knicks last night, Carmelo Anthony was in attendance, and he kind of knew with the game going into overtime that the Celtics had this game won. Like I said, New York Knicks, if the playoffs start today, by the standings, they would be playing the Detroit Pistons. And I've been saying throughout the entirety of the season, Detroit Pistons are one of the youngest teams in the NBA. New York Knicks fans, y'all better watch out. You cannot take the Detroit Pistons lightly because the Detroit Pistons, they're a team in this case, they have nothing to lose. And I do mean nothing. Everybody is projecting them to lose their first round series matchup against the New York Knicks. Everybody. Now, me, I haven't done any playoff series predictions yet, but if I was going to do that, I would give I would give a slight favorite to the New York Knicks, but I would not be surprised if the New York Knicks got upset by the Detroit Pistons. But that is for another day. So now we get to the statistics of this game last night. Free throws, and I do mean free throws. That was a big discrepancy last night. 20 or 25 for the Boston Celtics on free throws, 10 or 16 for the New York Knicks on free throws. Rebounds, total rebounds, the New York Knicks out rebounded the Boston Celtics in total rebounds and offensive rebounds and in defensive rebounds. So how do you lose a game when you have out rebounded your opponent by 14? Well, I am going to tell you. Missed time of clock management, turnovers. The turnovers they had, well, the Celtics had more turnovers than the Knicks, but late game situations. I mean, this is almost like I almost sound like a broken record when it comes to the New York Knicks. But every time when it comes to the New York Knicks, late game situations, Stephen A. out there, your New York Knicks, they have problems with winning close games, and they have problems being able to when the rubber meets the road, and they need buckets and points in a pressure packed moment, they have failed to deliver. That's why the New York Knicks aren't gonna go very far in the playoffs. And like I said, when it comes to the Boston Celtics, we've already penciled them in for the Eastern Conference Finals. And let me tell you, if the Eastern Conference Finals is not Cleveland and Boston, nobody is going to watch it. Because when you see everybody, and I do mean everybody in the East, everybody between 3 to 10 in the East, they are average at best. You got the Indiana Pacers, they like to outscore everybody. The Milwaukee Bucks, they are a shell of themselves. The Detroit Pistons, they are a young team, so they pretty much gaining playoff experience. Orlando Magic have been there the last 2 years, but seem like they took a step back this year. Atlanta, we know Atlanta is going to Atlanta. The Chicago Bulls, another team that's pretty much a below average team, and the Miami Heat, which is another below average team this year, but in previous years they were an above average team, making it to the finals a couple years ago, playing the Denver Nuggets. Now, I said all of that to say this here when it comes to the New York Knicks. New York Knicks, they are gonna nick because one thing, when you project them to win something, they don't. So that's why I'm on the fence when it comes to the New York Knicks. And let me tell you, New York Knicks fans, we know that it has been over 55 years that you have won a championship. I am not going to bore y'all to death. What I'm going to do, I am just going to hope the best for y'all. But like I said, do not take them Pistons of Detroit lightly. Do not. Now, one other thing that I'm going to say, New York Knicks, your bench production is bad. Everything outside now, the reason why I say the bench production is bad, because your damn head coach doesn't even emphasize bench production. You got all of your starters for the New York Knicks, and every starter on the New York Knicks has played an average of 32 minutes during the regular season each year over the last 4 years. Do you see what I'm talking about, America, world, wherever you may be listening? When you have your starters playing over 30 minutes night after night after night, they are not going to have enough light in the tail to go to the playoffs. They are not going to have, they are going to be wore out when it comes to their first round playoff series matchup. So, New York Knicks fans, please do not have outlandish expectations when you know that you are going to be home after the first or second round. The next game I am going to cover is the Minnesota Timberwolves and the aforementioned Milwaukee Bucks. Now, Minnesota Timberwolves and the Milwaukee Bucks. Milwaukee Bucks is at the fifth spot in the East. The Minnesota Timberwolves are currently eighth in the Western Conference as we speak. Now, like I said, tonight and for the next few nights, it is going to be critical in the NBA. Standings and seedings it is going to be critical. So now, the Minnesota Timberwolves last night, we have Julius Randle, 9 points. Jaden McDaniels, 13 points. Rudy Gobert, 6 points. Mike Conley, 5 points. Anthony Edwards, 25 points. Somebody has got to shoulder the load with Anthony Edwards in order for the Minnesota Timberwolves to even make it to their Western Conference Finals like they did not last year, but for them to make it to the Western Conference Finals and for them to be one of the top teams, for them to have one of the top teams in the NBA and at least, and I do mean at least give OKC some competition in the West. And that is not to mention the Los Angeles Lakers, which I will get into a little bit later on in the show. So the bench production for the Minnesota Timberwolves: Naz Reid, 17 points. Dante DiVincenzo, 24 points. Nickeil Alexander-Walker, 4 points. Jalen Clark, 0 points. And all the other bench players did not play because of coach's decision. Now, let's turn over to the Milwaukee Bucks, because the Milwaukee Bucks are in the exact same boat as the Minnesota Timberwolves. So I'm going to go very quick with these scores right here. Taurean Prince, 7 points. Giannis Antetokounmpo, 23 points. Kyle Kuzma, 10 points. Brook Lopez, 10 points. Ryan Rollins, 5 points. The bench production for the Milwaukee Bucks: Bobby Portis, 18 points. Gary Trent Jr., 7 points. Kevin Porter Jr., 21 points. AJ Green, 9 points. The last 3 players on the bench did not play because of coach's decision. Now, let me get to the ceiling for both of these teams. Now, the ceiling for the Minnesota Timberwolves in the West. Let's see. If the playoffs were to start today, if the playoffs were to start today, the play-in tournament would start. It would be Memphis Grizzlies versus Dallas Mavericks, and it would be Minnesota Timberwolves versus the Sacramento Kings. The winner of the 7-10 matchup would play the second team in the West, which is the Houston Rockets. And the winner of the 8-9 matchup would play the Oklahoma City Thunder. So, let me tell you, a first round series with Minnesota and OKC, oh my goodness, that would be box office gold there. That would be box office gold. And the Milwaukee Bucks, they'll be playing the Indiana Pacers in the first round like they did last year, and they ended up losing. So now, when we look at the statistics as far as for the entirety of the team, we see where the Milwaukee Bucks had a better shooting night, and you see the Minnesota Timberwolves, they are pretty much just trying to keep their heads above water, if you understand if you understand that cliche. Just trying to keep their heads above water. And let me tell you, they are doing an okay job. They are. But Minnesota Timberwolves, we know that they are going to be a force to be reckoned with when it comes to future seasons. But you also have a team down in Houston called the Houston Rockets that are going to be a force just like the Minnesota Timberwolves are. So Milwaukee Bucks 3-point shooting last night was atrocious, 2012 of 36. For the Minnesota Timberwolves, not better, not much better. 13 of 40. Free throws, 8 of 9 for the Minnesota Timberwolves, 18 of 25 for the Milwaukee Bucks. Total rebounds, the Milwaukee Bucks +1. Offensive rebounds +1. Defensive rebounds, it was a tie. So what happened in this game? The Minnesota Timberwolves was leading this game by 24. 24 point, they were up by 24 at one point, and then to end the game, and I do mean to end the game, the Milwaukee Bucks went on a 27-0 run, and that was to end the game. So one thing about it was, a lot of that was called, that run by the Milwaukee Bucks, a lot of that was caused by turnovers, and a lot of that was caused by, missed clock management. And also, let me tell you, the Milwaukee Bucks held the Minnesota Timberwolves in the fourth quarter to under 15 points. They didn't even score 15 points. To be exact, they scored 13. So the Minnesota Timberwolves, and let me tell you, I'm just going to go on ahead and go right down here to the Western Conference, and I am going to tell you that the spots between the Western Conference 4 through 8, let me tell you, that only separates 4 through 8 teams in the Western Conference. It only separates them by one win in the win column, and all of them have at least 32 losses. The only team that has more is the Minnesota Timberwolves at 33. So now, when we look at the Minnesota Timberwolves, we see a team where they exceeded expectations last year, got slaughtered by the Dallas Mavericks in the Western Conference Finals last year. And this year, they were projected to be one of the top 4, maybe 5 teams in the West, but they are currently fighting for a play-in tournament spot, and they are 8th. And you had the Milwaukee Bucks. Now the Milwaukee Bucks, we are just giving them just peanuts at this point. Just peanuts, because we didn't expect the Cleveland Cavaliers to be tops in the Eastern Conference. We didn't expect, we did expect for the Boston Celtics to be in the same position that they are in. So, not too much happening there, not too much differences. Now, that's all I have for the Minnesota Timberwolves and the Milwaukee Bucks. The next game I am going to cover is the Los Angeles Lakers and the Oklahoma City Thunder. Now, when it comes to the Los Angeles Lakers, I knew that they were going to have a slip up in last night's game, because The game before they played the Thunder Sunday, and they had they had great shooting, and they pretty much emphasized stopping Shea Gildress Alexander. And as you can see, as far as these statistics concerned, you have Dorian Finney-Smith with 12 points, LeBron James with 28 points, Jackson Hayes with 7 points, Luka Doncic 23 points. He got ejected, and that was just a foolish call to eject him. Austin Reeves had 24 points. The bench production for the Los Angeles Lakers, Jared Vanderbilt, 8 points. Terry Jamison III, 2 points. Christian Koloko, 2 points. Gabe Vincent, 5 points. Shake Milton, 0 points. Jordan Goodwin, 6 points. Dalton Connect, 3 points. And the two players that come off the bench did not play because of coach's decision. Now for the Oklahoma City Thunder. Oklahoma City Thunder, Chet Holmgren, 14 points. Jalen Williams, 26 points. Isaiah Hartenstein, 8 points. Shea Gildress Alexander, 42 points. Luke Gez Dort, 17 points. Bench production, Adam Flagler, Dylan Jones, 0 points. Kenrick Williams, 3 points. Brendan Carlson, 0 points. Alex Caruso, 9 points. Isaiah Joe and Aaron Wiggins, 3 points. And to finalize everything, Cason Wallace, 11 points. So now, we already know that the Oklahoma City Thunder is the top team in the West. The Los Angeles Lakers are the third team in the West. Now, 3 through 10 in the West, their playoff positioning hasn't been finalized yet. And let me tell you, with only 5 days left in the NBA regular season, there is a lot of things that is going to fluctuate. Standings are going to fluctuate. Seedings are going to fluctuate. Players, they can't take games off. These last 4, maybe 5 games of the NBA season, the starters for every team in the West, they are not going to be able to take games off. I don't even think that the OKC Thunder starters are going to take games off in these next few days. I just don't, because even though that they have the best record in the West, you still want everybody to be in the swing of things before the playoffs start. Now, last night for the Lakers and Thunder, the Lakers they had a bad shooting night. You can see 37 of 80 from the floor, 3-point shooting, 18 of 40 for the Thunder, 18 of 37. So they had a little bit more efficiency. Free throws, 28 of 37 for the Lakers, 14 of 20 from the free throw stripe for the OKC Thunder. Rebounds, total rebounds, the Lakers out-rebounded the Thunder by 1. Offensive rebounds, the Thunder +3. Defensive rebounds, the Lakers +4. But one thing that this game it turned on its head is turnovers. Now, the Lakers, they had 12 turnovers in the first half. They finished the game with 19. They only had 7 in the second half. Now, one thing, 7:20 late, 7 minutes 20 seconds left in the fourth quarter, Luka Doncic, he goes up for a 2-point basket. The Lakers have the lead. Luka, he said, I guess he said something to a fan. That's what I heard. That's what multiple reports have said. But I don't think that it was grounds for him to get ejected from the game. You know when it back in the day, if a fan talks crap to to a player in the stands, like I'm gonna say this, and I always like to do this, but there were a lot of fans that used to talk crap to Kobe Bryant while he was playing the game, and Kobe, he would just be making shots and shutting the crowd up. But we've gotten to a point where it seems like the refs, they have so much impact on the game when you make calls like that, and that was not the right call to make. It wasn't, because you have pretty much, okay, so 7:20 left in the fourth quarter, the Lakers had to lead by 1 point. You eject Luka Doncic, right? You eject Luka Doncic, and after that, it was 108, 107. And then after that, the Thunder, to end the game, they go on a 29-8 run to end the game. So, like I said, that what the referee did there, ejecting Luka, that had an immediate impact on the game, and you cannot do that coming down towards the playoffs. You can't, because if you do that, you are going to have the NBA fans have problems with that, and pretty much the referee is going to determine the outcome of a playoff series, and we do not want that as journalists, fans, and spectators of the NBA. We do not want referees determining the outcome of a playoff series or determining the outcome of whether a player gets to play all 48 minutes, plus, if we are lucky, going into or overtime. We shouldn't have to worry about that. And like I said, excuse me, last night we all know that the Lakers were going to slip up. Now, I believe last night was a pretty much, an adversity. They had some adversity last night, but the Thunder, I can tell you, this year and last year, they really haven't had any, you know, adversity during the regular season. That's why I say, what would they be like during the playoffs? So the that's all I have for the Lakers and Thunder game. The next game I am going to talk about is the Golden State Warriors and the Phoenix Suns. And then after that, I am going to talk about the news that rocked the NBA yesterday with former head coach Mike Malone being fired from the Denver Nuggets. So here is the Warriors in this case. The Warriors, right now, they are at the number 6 spot in the Western Conference right now. So in the Western Conference, the Warriors are 6. And let me tell you, 3 through 6 only separates them by 1 game. So everybody in the West, 3 through 10, but mainly 3 through 6, they are on pins and needles every night between now and the rest of the week. They are on pins and needles. Excuse me. Now, excuse me. When it comes to the Golden State Warriors, since acquiring not Draymond Green, but since the Warriors acquired Jimmy Butler, they have played over 33 games. And 33 games, and they've lost 6. They are 27-6 in those 33 games. Last night, you can see from the scoring, Draymond Green, he had 5 points. Jimmy Butler had 10 points. Steph Curry had 25 points. Moses Moody had 5 points. Brandon Pat Zeskimi had 22 points. The bench production for the Golden State Warriors, Jonathan Kuminga, 10 points. Kevon Looney, 2 points. Braxton Key, 1 point. Jackson Rose, 6 points. Kevin Knox, 10 points. Trace Jackson Davis, 13 points. Guy Santos, Buddy Hield, each had 7 points. Pat Spencer had 10 points. Terrian Armstrong did not play because of coach's decision. Phoenix Phoenix starters. Royce O'Neal, 3 points. Ryan Dunn, 12 points. Nick Richards, 4 points. Bradley Beal, 7 points. Devin Booker, 21 points. Bench production for the Phoenix Suns, Cody Martin, 6 points. Mason Plumlee, 3 points. Jose Anjarido, 4 points. Monte Morris, 7 points. Tyus Jones, 2 points. Damian Lee, 8 points. Grayson Allen, 12 points. Colin Gillespie, 6 points. Bol did not play because of coach's decision. Vasilek Mickey did not play because of coach's decision. Now, when we get to the team statistics and the overall standings when it comes to the Phoenix Suns, I believe the Phoenix Suns are done. I really do. I thought that the Dallas Mavericks were left for dead 3 weeks ago, but I see that the Dallas Mavericks are holding a 3-game lead. 3-game lead at the 10th spot with 5 games left. So if Dallas loses out and the Phoenix Suns win out, Phoenix Suns will be at that 10th spot in the West and will, play for a play-in tournament game. But do I see that happening? No, I don't, because Phoenix Suns, they have been atrocious on the defensive side of the court throughout the entirety of this season. Bad shooting nights upon bad shooting nights, and last night it wasn't no better. 35 of 88. You had the Warriors 45 of 93. Three-point shooting, 15 of 40 for the Warriors, 12 of 43 for the Phoenix Suns. Also, total rebounds. Golden State Warriors out-rebounded them by 16. Offensive rebounds. Golden State Warriors +6. Defensive rebounds +10. Assists +9. Steals +2 for the Golden State Warriors. Blocks +1 for Phoenix. Turnovers +4 for the Phoenix Suns. 19 turnovers. Golden State Warriors had 15 turnovers. Both teams had a severe case of turnover-litis, but points off of turnovers, Warriors had 15 points off of turnovers. Suns had 26 points off of turnovers. Fast break points, Warriors +6, 16 points for the Warriors. Fast break points, 10 points for the Phoenix Suns. Points in the paint, 50 points in the paint for the Golden State Warriors. The Phoenix Suns, 34 points in the paint. Fouls, 19 fouls for the Phoenix Suns, 10 fouls for the Warriors. Technical fouls, 2 for the Suns. Technical fouls for the Warriors, 1. Flagrant fouls, nobody got thrown out of the game. The largest lead of the game was 41 for the Warriors, and the largest lead for the Phoenix Suns was 1 point. So, Golden State Warriors, we know that they are going to make it to the playoffs. Well, it looks like that they are going to make it to the playoffs, but as of right now, they are tied at the 6th spot with the Memphis Grizzlies. Man, the teams that are 4 through 7 have the same exact record and winning percentage. So a lot is going to fluctuate within the next 3 to 4 days between the 4th spot in the West and the 7th spot in the West. So that's all I have for the That's all I have for the Warriors and the Phoenix Suns. Now, let me get to the final aspect of this, and it is the surprise firing. Surprise firing when it comes to the Denver Nuggets yesterday, and we all know that Michael Malone. It seems like Michael Malone was not. He was not too fond in the Denver Nuggets organization anymore. He wasn't, and I noticed this during his last few, press conferences. I noticed that he was saying, he was like, I need these guys to step up. But when these players, when you see them it seems like from what I'm hearing, he gave special treatment to Jamal Murray, and he gave special treatment to Nikola Jokic. Now, Nikola Jokic, he was getting on Michael Malone's ass versus the Memphis, not Memphis, but the Minnesota Timberwolves just a few nights before. Like, this was last week. Now, I believe that Minnesota Timberwolves loss, it really was a light shine on the Denver Nuggets after that Minnesota loss, because you can all see, and here's the 5 most likely reasons that the Denver Nuggets fired head coach Mike Malone and the general manager. Now, here is one: ownership. Now, from what I'm hearing, the reports are ownership, they wanted Russell Westbrook to come off the bench, but Michael Malone, he wanted Russell Westbrook to start. So that's one. Ownership was number one. The booth, as far as the general manager, they had many misses. They could have had players to build around Nikola Jokic and Jamal Murray, because Jamal Murray is hurt right now. And statistically, the Denver Nuggets right now, they are at the 4th spot, but everybody between the 4th spot and the 7th spot have identical records. So the worst case scenario, the Denver Nuggets could be 7th at season's end, and the best case scenario, the Denver Nuggets can stay right where they are at 4th. So Booth had many issues. The third reason was Michael Malone's struggles when it comes to, building the team and encouraging the team. So that's what Michael Malone had struggles. Some of the players did not like Michael Malone's coaching philosophy. It pretty much it pretty much ran its course. See, that's why I say, when you are a head coach, to me, a head coach, for the players not to get, tired of the same bland message, you have to advance. A head coach has got to advance his vocabulary. Throw in a word that the players have never heard you use before, but mean the same exact thing. So Michael Malone, he was there for 10 years, won a championship just a couple years ago for the Denver Nuggets. Here's the 4th reason: the clash between management, upper management, and Michael Malone. That's why I said different philosophies, but you have different playbooks, will not have the same parties, agreeing with each other. When two parties have two different agendas and two different outlooks for a team, no matter what it is, team, whether it's business or even in a real life relationship outside of the business aspect and sports. If two parties have two different outlooks, they are not going to stay around long, and that is why Booth and Malone had clashes a lot of the time. Now, the fifth and final reason was the Denver Nuggets simply isn't good enough. And I've been saying this over the past few months when it comes to their bench production. When you have Nikola Jokic putting up over 60 points, 60-point triple doubles in a loss, there are glaring problems with the Denver Nuggets. Now, like I said, we can look and see where the Denver Nuggets right now, they are currently fourth. Excuse me, as of last night, well, after last night, they are currently fifth, and they would be playing the Clippers if the playoffs start today. Now, the assistant coach who is going to fill in Michael Malone's head coaching role since he was fired was Dave Edelman, and he has been a coach's assistant for the Nuggets for a while now. So he might be in the next head coaching cycle too, because he was the head coach for the Memphis Grizzlies. About 10 years ago, he was the head coach for the Grizzlies. So he has a good track record, and everybody is saying that he can revive a locker room. But we are going to see. But for the Memphis Grizzlies and the Denver Nuggets to be in the same exact boat, to fire your head coach just days away from the playoffs starting, it pretty much has a bad look for both teams. It really does, because there's a level of professionalism that you are supposed to have when it comes to hiring and firing a person that is no longer that is fit for the work program or the organization. So the way I think that the Denver Nuggets fired Mike Malone, it wasn't a good look. It wasn't a good look, because what they should have done was wait until after the season, after their playoff run is over with, and then, come into a meeting and pretty much think about, the future of the team. Because, you know, the Denver Nuggets, since their championship, it's almost like they're in the same exact boat as the Milwaukee Bucks. They pretty much, overachieved the couple years before they won the championship. Then when they got to the championship, they pretty much underachieved. Last year, you lost to the Minnesota Timberwolves, a Western Conference Finals participant, and now we fast forward to now, you are at the fifth spot, but you could easily be at the seventh or eighth spot playing in a tournament game at the end of this week going into next week. So the Denver Nuggets in this case, they have to they have to make changes to their core severely for the better, because if Nikola Jokic, if he is not confident in this group, and if Jamal Murray is not confident in this group, they are going to request a trade. And the reason why I say they are going to request a trade is because since after the championship, both of those guys have been carrying the load, Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic. And I'm pretty sure you can only put so much on two guys for an organization for so long until they start to get worn out and pretty much lose faith in the organization. And with that, those are my reactions to the Tuesday night NBA slate of games and the head coach firing that the Denver Nuggets did yesterday. Please like, comment, share, subscribe. Click the notification bell to get notified of all of my reaction videos, shows, and other content. We are doing an expansion right here on YouTube. when it comes to Key Time Sports. So please like, share, and follow Key Time Sports on YouTube, and also follow Key City Sports on Instagram. We are doing an expansion on both, so I do not want anybody to miss what we have going on. And in the coming weeks, we are going to have NBA playoff coverage to get into, NFL draft coverage to get into, more NBA playoff coverage, and NBA finals coverage to get to. Plus, we have NFL mini camp and OTAs to talk about in the next few weeks. So, one last thing I want to say. Remember, the key is always on time.